mighty man. He has been doing youth ministry. He's a friend of mine. He has a big heart for people. We call this one Executing the Dream. We stand 2070. Can you put your hands, gonna make some noise for none other than Javed Bachew.
Good afternoon, everyone. You all tired? You ready to go home? Amen. I'm just going to give a disclaimer before I start. I'm really not a speaker so much of the sort I like to. But I was asked, and I believe that there's something here that I know that the Lord could use to, again, make some transformation in the way that we do ministry, in the way that we learn, in the way that we love. So first of all, I want to just thank the Lord for the opportunity. I want to thank my wife. She's not here. But I hate typing, but she helped me keep my thoughts together. So I want to thank my wife for that. Just a brief introduction of myself I think is important. When I was 16 years old, like some of us here, and I heard it mentioned a few times to some of the leaders, I was one of those people that kind of just had to do ministry. There was a need. There was no one around that could fulfill somebody's needs and just helping out with some of the young people around. I looked around and it had nobody else. So I stepped into place. And at the age of 16, I was leading a very, very, very small youth group in my neighborhood. They asked me to speak about executing the dream today. And so I think it's definitely that I have a little brief history. The neighborhood in which I worked in was a neighborhood of people that weren't familiar with church. You ask them they might know Adam and Eve because everybody is make jokes about Adam and Eve. But you ask about anything else in the Bible and they were absolutely clueless as to what I was talking about. And I remember one thing that my dad taught me at a very, very young age, and I know on KK, which was very close in my life as well too, taught the exact same thing. And it's now the theme or the base of Faith Assembly where it says love God and love people. Some of the two greatest things you could ever do. And in starting up, I felt the need to spend time with some of these young people. I know some churches would be like, what do you mean spend time with them? You mean preach? You mean sing? You mean... But if I sang a worship song, they did not understand what I did when I lift my hand. They had no clue. And so I said, you know what? It's time to kind of get to know people. And what I did was I had a couple other people with me that came from a church background. And they said, well, here's what now. Let's try to loosen them up because the people that came and the young people that were coming in to see what was going on in the neighborhood, again, Bible and worship service, that went straight over the head. So I said, here what? On Friday night, they had bars on, every other house was a bar in the area. I said, here's what? On Friday night, we're not singing. We're not, I ain't even going to preach. I ain't going to do anything like that. And we bought a sheet of ply, and I remember taking a couple of the fellas in the community. I said, fellas, here what? They go down by the hardware, we're going to buy a sheet of ply. We take the sheet of ply, we paint it green, white stripes, table tennis board. I think we use a piece of 2x4 as the net. And on a Friday night, the fellas said, I'm coming for a little sweat. We didn't have no savannah, we didn't even have a proper space, but we had enough space to put a tennis board. And I would play table tennis with the fellas. Them like table tennis, we play table tennis. While we were doing that, every so often I'd pop a question, hey, Jesus, what ended up happening on a Friday night was tennis and learning a little something about this God that we serve. That is why we were wrong. That is why the church came. It was about building those relationships with those people. The need for these guys was a little, probably clean fun, maybe, I don't know. The need was to be together. And that is how it started. That is how this whole thing started. Executing a dream. In case you don't know, everybody here probably would have at least heard about open house. Maybe at least once. And I want to just give a little history about open house and then tell you how it is we got to where we are at. And I mean, maybe open house is a big example, but please understand what we're saying, all right? When these young people started to hear the gospel on a Friday night, again, I didn't want it to just be a Friday night thing, because there's only so much you could do in your youth groups on a Friday night. The need in our community was a lot of the people in our community, young people, they couldn't read. A lot of them dropped out of school to help their parents work. That was just the culture of our neighborhood. There was a lot of alcohol. There was a lot of abuse. It just seemed like everything was just against youth in the neighborhood. So what we would do was, a few of us would just be like, hey, after school this day, we come in and pick you up. So you ain't traveling home. We come in, borrow a van, or we get whatever we could get borrow. Pick them up and we go and grab something. It might be doubles. It was something very, very, very simple. But for the means of relationship with these people, I think there's not a person in this planet that doesn't understand or doesn't have a need for a relationship. The need in our community was to have relationships. Some of them didn't have dads, so at a very early age, I felt like I had to be a daddy to some of these people. At a very early age, I felt like I had to be a big brother to some of them. You know, we talk about so many things about youth ministry. We talk about so many things. But are we addressing the needs of the people that we are entrusted with? You know, Jason and I had this conversation. Would you go out and minister to a man who is hungry without giving him some food to eat? You're wasting your time. First, give him something to eat. And I bet you'd even have to ask for his attention or her attention. When we started this process of open house, as some people might have seen now, I was just talking to a young lady today, and she said, there's about the third open house, right? I said, no, it's about the ninth. And it wasn't anything like what it is today. Love God and love people. You want to execute the dream? First of all, I put points because I get lost, right? Nothing ever happens first, and nothing should ever happen first without praying about it. You know, so many times, and I'm guilty of it too, and I've been guilty of it, where we plan these programs. We're talking about youth, right? So we plan, we come up with a great idea about what we should do with the young people that we have in our youth group. And you come up with these amazing plans and great ideas. And then we ask God to bless it. Is something wrong with that, eh? No, I've been guilty of it. So this year when this committee, and again, this is, we talk about recent, we normally start planning for open house 2 years in advance. And in the past, we came up with ideas on how to. God definitely has been blessing. What we did last year took a lecture longer. I said, you know what, guys, let's pray a little bit. We spent some time praying when we came over, Lyndon and some of these guys in this church from First Church. A good few of us came over and we would just pray and say, Lord, what you want to have us do? That is if anybody is like me, that is an absolutely scary thing. I'm fearful. It's God we're talking about here. Lord, what this thing's supposed to look like? What do you want this thing to be? And it came a few months later than probably I wanted to, or some of the people that were part of the committee. But very soon after that, the answers started coming. He said, here's what. I want you to do this. This is how I want you to get it done. I said, but Lord, this thing going to cost plenty money. How to do this thing? He said, here's what now. Give us clear instructions. And one of them, as you mentioned, he said, ask for what you want. I've given you what to do. And so some of us here sitting in here saying, well, but I come from a real small church, or my youth ministry is small. I don't think we have much. Well, when Open House started, it was probably about 19 or maybe, if at the most, 20, inclusive of some of the leaders that we had when we first did it. So first of all, one of the points that I have in this is the vision that you have for your ministry. Where is that vision, or where did that dream come from? Did it come from something that you came up with your mind that's a great idea? Or was it something that God planted there for you to follow through and do? It may sound like a question that's like, duh, well, God gave me it. But think back a little bit. How many things do we do on a daily basis that we just plan to do and then ask God to bless? So, first thing is make sure that that dream that you have in your heart was from God and not what came from your head. Then secondly, and I think this is real important, you need to surround yourself with people who could encourage you and who could support you with the vision that you have. Again, we could talk about church, we could talk about business, you could talk about youth group. Applies to all. Because those people, some of them around you might be dream killers. And I've learned that very few of them are actually dream builders. Very, 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 very few. So when I know that the Lord placed something in my heart, there's very few people that know about it. Somebody earlier said, when the Lord lays something in your heart, you should write it down. I forget a lot. And so sometimes in the night, I might get up and I might send myself an email. Anybody else do that? And don't check the mail because you will see it new in the morning. I do that real often because I would really forget. But what you need to do now that you have those people who surrounding you is, you need to learn how to pass what God has laid in your heart now to them. Because like in leadership, in any leadership in your church, and like the pastors and like the fathers of the church said, is that they need to have what the heart of the leader is. Or else you're going to get all kind of different concoctions coming up in your ministry that don't line up with what the goal of the church is, or what the vision of the church is, or whatever the case may be. Learn how to clearly state your purpose. the purpose of open house in this case was really specifically to reach those people that are unchurched, that are not familiar with the concept of coming to church. In case all it didn't, tell. You need to stay focused on what your purpose is. You know, sometimes it seems that in church, it seems like, in the Bible talk about we are one body with many different parts, and every part has a function. Can somebody answer me this question? What is we doing? Because it seems as though everybody want to be the body of Christ. And nobody wants to be a part. For open house, I am not interested whether people know what church I come from. I could really care less. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the kingdom. I am not looking at the end of the day, and your goal as a leader shouldn't be to fill your church or to fill your pews. That is not our jobs as leaders. It's to bring people and direct people and steer people and show them that path to Christ. And I asked somebody a question right before open house. I know they probably dig a horrors. But excuse for the blunt language. But what happened if the body didn't have a bottom? Or no, understand what I'm saying? Or a big toe. I just saying. One thing I really hate. Now, in the beginning, the intro, I also run a business. I'm the father of 2 teenagers. Lord. I love my wife dearly. But one thing you have to do too, and one thing I really hate, I hate when in church or in business, every day they want to meet. Again, I'm giving you a little remedy here. Meetings are great, and I think it's essential. It's good to debrief. You all heard. It's good to discuss. It's good to plan. But how much time do you go plan? Every time you plan for the same thing over and over and over again, sometimes the devil not even in the corner laughing. He's sitting right inside there laughing at you. How many times are you going to plan for the same thing? So when you call a meeting, leaders, come with a vision and plan one time for in that meeting. Here's what now. Here's what God has given us. Again, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what ministry you're in, what you're involved in. You discuss, you plan, you pray because God would have given you that. But please, don't allow yourselves to stay in that mold of, it seems like people just plan their whole life and no action. You want to execute the dream? Let me tell you something. Plan and prepare. I'm going to go through my points. Expect to work hard. I think sometimes us leaders are very guilty. We know to delegate good, but you don't know how to lead. Can anybody give me a definition of a leader? Lyndon, to lead. What is the definition of a leader? Anybody know? Anybody could? There are no wrong answers. I ask it. You need to lead. You need to work hard too. Sometimes I feel like people just know how to delegate and get things done. That's fine. There's a time for that. But a lot of times, people who are willing just need an example. Somebody to follow. So expect to work hard. Sometimes it may take time. sometimes it makes time. We live in a world right now where everything is instant. I know I'm guilty of it. If I try to call my wife or I message her and she didn't pick up the phone or she didn't send back a text or if I didn't see that blue check mark, I'm like, where this woman is, boy? It seems as though we have become a people that have become impatient. Look at the examples from the Bible. How long did it take for Joseph to get where he needed to go? It was years. When you sit down to plan, we're talking about executing the vision. When you sit down to plan, set deadlines. Or you go plan and plan and plan and plan. And you'll plan. And that is all you will do. You will feel important. You'll make the people in the church feel important. But lives out there, people dying and people just passing away while you sitting down and be planning. We have to stop that. Some of us are in church long enough. You don't even need to plan. You just need to start doing. Set deadlines and meet those deadlines. People have been asked the question, well, why it is always go through so much and do so much in open house? Why it is that necessary? I think Christoph and I were talking about, I think we've had a conversation with a few people here, and I know it's probably some of the questions that you all have. Why it is go through all that to do what we do? First of all, we don't have to. But I don't know about you, but here's my thoughts. If I invite somebody to come who is non-church or unchurch or doesn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, if I invite them to come to a Christian concert, or most of all, pay to go to a Christian concert, I don't know how many of them would. I'll be real honest with you all. Open house is something that we do free to the public. But it costs somebody something, or somebody's something. The reason why we do it free, number one, is because I don't want anybody to have no excuse why you can't come to hear the gospel. That is always the first thing everybody is bold. Well, I have no money to come. Okay, great, all right. I remember growing up before I was in youth leadership, I remember the youth leader saying, hey, we'll invite your friends to come. And just like Christoph said, for nothing, I invited them to come in there. Because it seemed like on a Friday night was a ritual we was doing. I can tell you exactly how we're going to do it. We come in, we play all the music, we sing, we get preach. They might do a little offering, they might do a game, and then we're done. And no, I ain't bashing that. That is great. But every time, on a Friday night, sometimes, hear me out, on a Friday night, after a whole week of school, sometimes these youths and them, they really want lime. Now, hear me out. Because I know somebody ready to shoot me here today. Sometimes we have to be a little fresh. Think about it. You go carry the woman out on a date to the same restaurant every weekend. So why is do it in your youth group? Or why are you doing it in your ministry? I like what Jason is. A day I watching Facebook and I see Jason drive a Jimny. He drive a vehicle inside the church. And I say, no way, boy. That's where we get it from. I remember when I was in youth ministry, we did a sermon. And I say, you know what? Tonight we're going to do it a little bit differently. So we're doing the message about Peter and Jesus on the water. So I say, you know what? Right outside of our swimming pool, you know. So I say, here what? Or you don't come dress up fancy tonight. Here's what you're going to do. Walk with our short pants or something. During the week, and there's another one of my points. During the week, I got some of the guys in the neighborhood. I say, Ole, let me score some barrels. And we have some construction to do. Leaders, you need to start involving other people in what's happening in your church. It's as important as any other spiritual thing you would ever do in your church. Too many people that are in church and are around leaders, and they don't feel any kind of self-worth. They're depressed and they're oppressed, and they don't feel like they're worth something. Sometimes asking a man, hey, your duty tonight, I want you to pour the chairs. It sounds like nothing. But the fact that Lyndon asked somebody to do something, that person, hey, all right, cool, I have a purpose. So I would involve a lot of the young people into doing stuff. So we get together during the week. As soon as they come from school, some of them come in the school uniform, walking with clothes in their bag. Would none of you know how to build a raft? It's supposed to be the boat that Jesus was on, right? And we do the whole thing on the pool. Never mind the raft didn't really float. It sink. But let me tell you something. That was 20-something years ago we did that. Ask any one of those back young people if they remember that message, and I bet you they tell you yes. During open house and during your ministry, what we try to do is incorporate a lot of the senses. Because it is known, whoever does marketing here would know, that the more senses that you incorporate in your message, the more likely for people to remember. Anybody ever here went to school in the era where it had plasticine in your kindergarten? I don't know if it still have it still. You remember plasticine had that smell? Yes. But let me tell you, every so often, I smell plasticine, and I could see the whole image of my kindergarten. I remember my teacher. I remember where I was, Jason. I went to the same kindergarten. I remember Jason. Every time I see caramel, you know caramel? I just remember Jason, because one day I leave my lunchroom, and me and Jason share caramel for lunch. And I would never, ever, guilt by association. I want people, when they walk out of, whether it be open house, or whether we just met, or whatever, when Pastor Jay shares the gospel, or when your pastor, or when you share the gospel, don't you want people to remember? There's so many things. We need to stop pretending that this is all we need. Social media is fighting for your young people's minds. The mall, the movies, the clubs, all kind of things. If they really have a choice on a Friday night, you think they really want to come for you to somebody say put them to sleep. All right? This by no means has anything to do about watering down the gospel or changing, Pastor Dan talk about the delivery method. When we start loving people, hear me out. If you forget anything I say, don't forget this one. When we start loving people the way that God loves us, when we start loving people the way God loves us, you'll spend less time advertising for your youth group. You'll spend less time telling people, hey, come to church. You'll spend less time having to do these programs to get people to come to your youth group or your church. Because how did God love us? How did God love us? Not while we were yet sinners. They didn't talk about while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. You want to execute the dream that God gave you? What was the first one you need to do? Pray. Second thing, plan. What is the third thing? You surround yourself with important people. That is building a team. You need to pray and ask God who that should be in that team. You need to pray and ask the Lord who should be in that team with you. You need to clearly define your purpose to them. 4, you're going to have critics and people that really not into what it is you're doing. You're going to have non-supporters. I remember a couple years ago for open house, when it was done, I remember crying one night. And again, so many pastors touched on this a little bit earlier on. I remember crying at night. I tell you, my business. I remember crying at night. I was extremely, extremely hurt. Because some people were absolutely very verbal about this. Some people sent me messages. I got some real hate mail from people about they didn't like what it is we do for open house. By the way, in open house, we have a smoking section out to the back. And a lot of churches had an issue with it. Let me tell you something, I don't know about all you, but I do expect somebody who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ to act like they have a relationship with Jesus Christ when they come to open house or my youth group. The people that were in my youth group, let me tell you some business again, were the guys that when they left YTC, they would come to our church. They were prostitutes in our church. I can't tell you how much weed I have disposed of in the back of our church. Back in the day when the police station only had that 1323 Mazda, that was parked up outside our church on a Friday night. We created a relationship with the police station because guaranteed on a Friday night, it's going to have a fight, it's going to have some kind of feather ruffling. So the policeman used to park up outside, waiting for when it happened. And sometimes, on occasion, they would be dragged off to the police station. Some nights, we wouldn't go down to the police station to see what's going on purpose. Some nights we'd go down, we would talk to the sergeant and be like, Sarge, here's what. Give him a chance. We could take him under our wings for a little bit. Some nights, Sarge, do your thing. We started having relationships with our community, the police, the people in the village. I was very much criticized for that. During open house, when we're setting up open house, there are a lot of people that don't know Christ that get involved with open house. There's a purpose for that. There's a plan for that. I wouldn't put them in any place of ministry or any place where decisions like that need to be made. But there's people that are good at what they do in their field. And we have them come and be involved in open house because you know what? They need the gospel too. Reason why we do what we do, number one, my conviction. I represent Jesus Christ. I represent the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So you know what? My offering is going to be a sacrifice that I give. The Lord has blessed me in that area, so that is what I would give. That is what I have to give. That is my fruits that I could give. A lot of times, some people come, like I say, some people come for the food. When I did youth ministry, some fellas only came because this girl was in the youth group. And they know that the only time they could see that girl, let be real now, gosh. Some fellas that would have come in for, right? And some girls, same thing. Because the girls' parents used to pick them up and carry them home, so they know they can't see them any time. So them coming to church just for, that's a great opportunity. You want to execute the vision that God gave you? I think Pastor Dan and a lot of the leaders earlier today already answered a lot of the questions that you would have pertaining to getting the vision out. But guys, don't stay forever planning. Learn to ignore the critics because you know what? They're going to always exist. You can't get rid of them at all. They're always going to have people to criticize you. What if, I'm just saying what if What if when open house came around, I use this as the example because it's what I know. What if when open house came around, instead of those people that criticize people coming to Christ, what if you got involved? What if you invited those people you know that may understand what's happening there? Just what if? There are people that came to open house that turn back around by the gate and say, I go on. Okay, great. It's a free event. You ain't getting back no ticket money. You're free to come, you're free to leave. It really doesn't matter. At the end of what you do, your youth group, your outreach, ask yourself this one question. When it was done, what did fruit look like? Is there fruit? What a lot of people didn't see for open house was the hundreds of people that gave their hearts to Christ. We're talking about unchurched people who didn't necessarily show up in churches. What if we supported each other in our youth group? What we did, one of the things that we did as a youth group, we used to love to go and visit other youth groups. Young people need to see some new young people sometimes, man. It is get a little old. Come on. Or you need to mix it up. But you know what? We have this thing, but this is my youth group. My youth group? Yeah, you're responsible for those people. But come on, man. Mix it up again. Go and visit another youth group. Or go out and play football. Youth group against youth group football. Do something. That is a need that young people have, you know. To burn off a little steam from the week. Why you're making them sit down whole night? They don't come Sunday, Wednesday. You jamming them on the Friday again. I sing back. The little space to vent out. Open house, I love to see. Time up, all right. I love to see when people jumping up, praising God. And before I close, I don't want to take too much more time. 2015, my dad and I went on a TV station to do an interview to talk about open house. And the guy, Fazir Muhammad, I don't see where this man coming from long before reaching inside. I see how we do. Yeah, so I have a question for you, and I know there's a question that some of you have here, so let me answer it. He said, I find that, he saw some videos that he passed. He said, I find all you're looking like the world. We talk about that. I find, you see them jumping up, they see, right? He see a rave, right? Hear me and find, I don't know how, I don't know if he's a Christian, I don't know what religion, I have no idea what he is, right? But here, I find that looking like carnival. So my dad do me so. He say, my father will take it from me. He said, I was on my way to hell. I was lost. And Jesus saved me, and I go and stand up. He said, Jesus saved my life. I have just been redeemed. I was on my way to hell, and I get saved. And you want me to stand up? Some of all need to jump a little bit more. Some of all need to celebrate Jesus a little bit more. Some of all you're not thankful for what it is he did for you. Some of all with all your group need to jump and just lift up all your hands a little sometime, you know. Because when you understand what and where you got saved from, you might never ever stop jumping. That man end all the questions right there. I don't know for carnival what them people jumping for. I really don't know what they're jumping for. That all is supposed to be setting the example, you know. We supposed to be setting the example, you know. All is supposed to be the highest jumpers. We are allowing the world to set the pace first. Like I agree with what Pastor Dan said. He said, you know what? We failed. And the world just do so vroom, and overtake you. And now what we supposed to be doing, some of us calling it, well, how we doing the worldly thing so. Come on, y'all. Young people dying. Sometimes in your church, give me 2 minutes for you. Sometimes in the church, your youth ministry is the least funded. Sometimes your youth ministry is the least supported. It's kind of like where we have to have a youth group with our young people. Let me ask a question. Jay, Lyndon, who taking Jay's place? Who taking your place? Ask yourself the question, who taking my place? It's them same people that you're underfunding. It's those same people that you're least investing into. Let me be honest now. When God gives you something, He'll provide all that you need for it. Let me speed this up. As long as from God, God will never give you something that He don't provide everything that you need to accomplish it. If it's not being provided, maybe you should go back and do a review. Wait, now, this was my idea? Or did this dream come from God? Ask yourself it. Because He will never give you something that He can provide for. What kind of madness is that? He will always provide for the dream. He will always provide for the dream. I think I need to finish now. I believe so, Lyndon. This is something that you can't do in 40 minutes. But, you know, I'm going to come down to the... I don't even think... I have to apologize to my wife because I didn't really follow everything here. I can send the notes for anybody who asks it afterwards, right? Yeah, right, Jay. The dream, from the time God is in it, is never too big to accomplish. I don't care what. Because God is bigger than anything possibly that I could think of. When we saw open house, I wanted it to get done. Jay, Lyndon, I scratched my head so much. I have hair here, what you going to need back there? It was very uncomfortable. I had no idea how to make that happen. Open house never has a budget. We've never had a budget. Actually, we had a budget and it's always been zero. Always. We don't have no bank account. We don't have nothing, you know. It really have nothing, you know. But I have seen God provide for everything. Some of all you have dreams in your hearts that it's definitely God that placed it there. I know that. Because your love, Lord, He's doing something. And I know it has some dreams here that somehow already even pop out. You don't even mention it because you're afraid they're going to get boo. One time. Culture thing now. But let me tell you something. If God gave you the dream, He also gave the provisions to make it happen. Don't allow our youth to be lost because you're afraid. Don't allow the passion that God has placed in your heart to die because you're afraid or you don't know how you're going to make it happen. What's too big for God? Answer me. What's too big for God? No, man. What is too big for God? Nah, man. We ain't sure. What's too big for God? So start acting like that. Start acting like that. Right, Lyndon?